an incarcerated individual at the California Men's Colony, San Luis Obispo, California. This call and/or telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now.
Well, I'm Slick Beat. I'm from Elm Street. I wanted to first tell you about my boy C-Man referred me to you. I'm from Compton too. My hood was one of the ones that was bodyguarding for Suge Knight, the rival record label of Bad Boys, which was at the time Death Row Records. At the time was owned by Suge. Now it's owned by Snoop Dogg.
Right, which is crazy. So you're Donald Brown, and your street name was Slick, and you're in Elm Street Piru.
Yes.
Got it. I guess how old are you? What were you doing in the '90s?
And in the 90s, I was out and about. I was running the streets. My older homie, which is Rock Chism, which he was a part of the Death Row. I used to be with him a lot. I used to drive around with him in the lowrider, and every week he would go, and I would go with him and go collect his paycheck from Suge. He used to get allowance $2,000 a week, and he would get out and go collect his money, come back. He would give me like 50 some bucks, whatever. And we would drive around and just, in the lowrider. And when it break down, we would go back to Suge and get more money to get it fixed. That was my fondest memories of him.
How did you get to know him?
When I got put on my neighborhood, that was one of the older homies that accepted me. Like yeah, this the little homie right here, y'all put him on, And still to this day, I'm in contact with his older brother, Dabo. One in the wheelchair, Dabo Children. Got the shop back on Long Beach Boulevard. The barber shop is on Long Beach Boulevard in Am. I used to go to the studios, talk with Snoop Dogg, DJ Quick, Second and None sometimes, Dr. J before he departed from Death Row. I've been quite around Death Row era. I got a lot of older homies that was into that neck bone. Heron, Bountry, all those my older homies. My most tender memory was Snoop Dogg when I first met him. He had them all red, and he walked up to me and he was just like, and he greeted me. I knew who he was, and I was just confused that he had them all red, and it was just something that Suge was making him do. I guess that was something that he didn't want to do, but Suge was kind of making him do that, and he was just doing it because. And it's crazy, ironic now. The Crips in Long Beach, they wear red now, So it was kind of like almost like a 4-7 sign, But my memories of going to Death Row Studios with my older homie Rock Chism, which is rest in peace right now. He died of stage 4 cancer pneumonia. He got life for he got pulled over. He showed him his car to carry guns, and the arrested took his guns. And he got life, 3 strikes. He wasn't supposed to have guns. He's on parole. He used to always take me up there, and that's all. I remember talking to Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, and I was trying to get him I was trying to get on the track with Snoop Dogg, and I was trying to get a beat from Dr. Dre. I thought I was going to be a rapper back in the day. That's why I thought I was going with my homie up there.
Yeah, it's crazy, when the gangster rap thing, took off in the '80s and '90s. That obviously then lots of people in Compton, Compton became the epicenter of that, and a lot of people wanted to become artists.
That's where gangster rap started at. If it weren't for NWA, it wouldn't be no Tupac, Biggie Smalls beef. It wasn't for NWA.
So Rock brought you into Death Row. That's interesting. And did you ever were you kind of one of the bodyguards at times?
No, I never bodyguard
Right.
for Suge Knight. If I had it my way, I would have bodyguarded for Biggie Smalls, because I was a Biggie Smalls fan growing up, and it was conflicting because they're like, how are you a Biggie Smalls fan with the Death Row era? I just grew up. I just liked the Biggie. I liked the Biggie more. I don't judge people for their background, but I like the Biggie because he came from where he came from. He didn't come. He was from New York. He came from New York. He didn't go to New Jersey and then went to Compton and then went to here and here. He didn't do that. He came from the Bronx, and that's where he was. That's where he came from. That's where he stuck with. He came from nowhere else. That's why we stuck with Biggie. Tupac was all over the place.
If you don't mind me asking, what are you in prison for?
I'm in prison for a gang-related shooting that I didn't do.
Got it. And that was like back in Compton area, or?
It was in Compton.
Yeah.
On Van Ness and Rosecrans in my neighborhood, right there on Van Ness and Rosecrans.
Got it. So let's go back. First of all, how did you get involved with Elm Street?
How did I get involved in Elm Street? I got
Yeah.
involved in Elm Street through my older homies, Rock Chism, Jeffrey Chism, Charlie P, China Dog, all those other guys. They pulled me in.
There's a story about Rock Chism where Heron stabbed him. Do you remember that?
It was an incident on the streets where Suge had paid him to leave that alone, to squash that.
What happened was, Rock Chism ain't to be fucked with, first of all. We call him, where you at? I'm in the hood. Talking to Heron. All right, we on our way over there. Stay put. You know what I'm saying? We finna handle this shit, nigga. This Rock, it's the homie, nigga. Y'all fucking with the homie? Oh, it's finna go down. We Rock ready to go. So it's finna be fun, because I love Rock. Rock ain't no man. Rock, boy, look here. So anyway, bam. They over there arguing, because he tried to get, you know what I'm saying, from Heron, you know what I'm saying, the disagreement happened right there. And he fired on Heron. He damn near knocked Heron out. You know what I'm saying? He just was looking for a fade. But Heron went and got his little knife. We had just, we was at the Beverly Center. Heron had that motherfucker 24 hours, man. He, from Rock tried to knock him out. And Heron went to the truck, you know what I'm saying? And they was getting down, and he got one in, you know? Which I felt you should have took your fade, homie.
Yeah.
So it was some shit, you know, it was some shit. Because we had to calm Rock down.
Right.
And it took a lot, and I mean a lot.
Because he got stabbed.
Yeah.
So you like, Heron basically escalated.
Mama Chism worried, Day-Boy and all them, you know what I'm saying? Shit. Motherfuckers pissed off at Heron. That's what happened. And Rock made it through, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, Rock, you know what I'm saying? Rock got taken care of.
That's why it was never an issue on the streets when they were together, because Suge was paying him extra not to leave that alone.
To keep
right?
the peace.
And that was no way tied to the shooting death of Heron either.
Right, that was a separate incident, right?
That's totally separate incident.
Do you know anything about the murder of Heron? Like, what was going on with that?
I don't. I was arrested when that happened. And further into the record and everything, other rival gangs was trying to get involved into it, and that's when it became a big old mess. You know,
Right.
First it was just Elm Street and South Side, then other hoods tried to like put their bid in, try to get in, and that's when it became chaotic.
Let's get into the, you're a Biggie fan. What did you hear, or did you hear anything about Southside Crips messing around with Bad Boy?
From what I've seen, I've never seen any of Biggie Smalls' bodyguards. From what I was told, yeah, and that's what created a rival between Death Row and Bad Boy. Yeah, that was pretty much a recipe for disaster. You got one record label, Chris, and you got another record label with Piru. That was a recipe for disaster within itself right there.
I mean, I know you're a Biggie fan, but was there any hard feelings in Compton about Southside Crips siding with New York, when you consider the rivalry that was happening?
New York, nobody couldn't take nothing from either side, because what happened, and it was done on the lower scale, and it was like, wow, like it would never be nothing like that ever again. It was so epic, it could never be repeated or duplicated ever again, you know?
Right.
So no, I have no ill will towards the other side. Those are my peoples, you know. I have homies that used to be from Southside. Like I have homies that used to be from Santana. Santana got homies that used to be from my hood. So it's just a bunch of, you know what I mean? It is what it is, you know.
Do you remember, like, where were you when Tupac was shot, and what do you remember about that from your perspective and hearing about it?
In 1996, when Tupac got shot, I was in Wasco reception center. I was watching on on the TV in the day room. It's about 10 of them. They aired it on the news. Tupac just got shot. I got arrested right before the month before Tupac got killed. I was in reception center.
Wow.
Just came from the county. Upon arriving in the reception center, then I literally put my barrel down, looking at the TV screen, and the news flash. Tupac just got killed. And we thought it was a hoax. Like, no, that didn't happen. We didn't all chill. They let us back out, and they showed the car with the bullets in it. We were like, it's true. Tupac really just got killed. And everybody like, oh, no, you're behind us. You're not really killed. All these conspiracy things started going on and stuff, you know. But yeah, that's what happened.
Have you seen the video of the fight with Orlando Anderson at the MGM with Tupac and Suge and them? It's the one that sent Suge back to prison.
Yeah, I've seen that video.
Did you ever hear anything about like their beef with like Trayvon Lane?
I've never thinking about that beef. It just always been underlying beef with just the Pirus and Crips, and that just been it. And with them being bodyguards, that was just the fear of the fire right there, you know.
Right.
There was no way that nothing was going to happen with that being like that, because we're at the same gathering, we ended up at the same places, and look what happened right there. Case in point, right there.
Do you have any memories about Bountry?
I used to see Bountry, rest in peace, always at the park. I used to smoke weed with him, shoot dice. He would always bet me. He'd put up 100 to my 20, and that's my fondest memories of him. They had all the money, death row. They had all the money, and we would be up there. They'd be like, I put 100 down, big homie. You put down 10, and he could shoot. And if you win, you pick up the 100. If I lose, if I win, I pick up the 10. And that's my fondest memory of him.
That's cool. And that was what? That was like down at Looters Park?
Yeah, in the park, yes, sir.
Who were some of your other buddies at Elm Street?
The big homie, Bartender, rest in peace. My homie Sonny Lee, rest in peace. High Top, Lil Ricky, my ace. Mike Loke, he got killed by the South Guys in 95.
Tell me about that. What happened?
95, gas station, he got shot in the head twice. About some youngsters from Southside. They right after that, they got arrested. Right after that, I got arrested on Glencoe. I had a shootout with Baby Lane on Glencoe. I got arrested on Glencoe. I did, maybe 2 years. Nobody came to court because at that time it was a court of honor. Nobody said nothing, and I got out. And while I was locked up, my homies was going back and forth with him, and that was it. And that year died out, and it started back up with the death row thing. But I was in jail the whole time for that, though.
So tell me the whole story about getting into a shootout with Baby Lane. Like, go back to the beginning of that. Like, what's led to that, and just give me as much info on that as you have, because that's fascinating.
Okay, but that was in retaliation of my homeboy getting killed at the gas station. You know, I have black and white. I got arrested. I never knew that they had a park right there in Glencoe. I found out later on because I drove down the street and I ran through that park, and that's where I had a shootout with Baby Lane, right there in the middle of the park.
Wow, and it was was South Park?
Yeah, South Park. Yes, sir. He got the death study because I had like a handgun, and he had like a AK or something like that, and I got the hell up out of there, and I got arrested. I sure did. I was thinking survival saved myself, and I almost ran into the arms of the police, you know, with the gun in my hand. You know, I was that scared because I didn't know that he had that big of a gun. You know, I didn't know them at that time carried those type of weapons. You know, this was in the 90s. It's 95. We're talking about, you know.
Yeah, well, you're outgunned by a high-powered rifle, and you just have a handgun. You don't have much of a chance. So he was just hanging out in the park, and he saw you running through?
Well, he was driving by, and he seen me driving by, and he knew who I was, and he immediately engaged me. And I immediately engaged him, and I got out, and I ran. But he killed the car. If I was the car, I would have been dead. He killed the car, and to where the car just stopped running. And that's what made me get out and run, because he shot the car up so much, the engine stopped working. And I had to get out and run.
I mean, what was Orlando Anderson's reputation?
Got his mind, a hothead, like what they call me in court, a hood enforcer. You protect the hood at all costs. If you come to our area, you rival, we protected our hood at all costs. And even if it costs us our life, which it cost him his life at the car wash right there in the back of Compton High.
What did you ever hear about that? I did an episode of I have a docu-series I do on my channel. I did a whole episode on that shootout at Rob's car wash.
But what I do know, the rival gang is in front of Compton High, and I do know that Compton High is owned by the rival gang. So if they even in that vicinity, they're gonna catch that rival gang, which is Westside Palmer Block.
And what do you remember? Rob's car wash was kind of famous in the area, wasn't it?
It was back in the days. It was somewhere that I could not go, that I would always drive past there, and I would always see rivals out there. But I would not be over there to do no shooting. I would be over there like next to the female or whatever, because I went to Enterprise. I went to Enterprise Middle School right there, so I'm kind of familiar with the area,
And why couldn't you go to the car wash?
I couldn't go to the car wash because all those my rival gangs, I beat with all kinds of Crips.
So it was a Crip hangout.
Yeah, that would be like the car wash. The Untouchables right there in the mob over there. It'd be like that. It'd be like that car wash. They couldn't go over there. We couldn't go to there. They couldn't come to ours. It was just all over the room.
What did you think when you found out that Orlando Anderson had been killed?
First, I thought about the Tupac situation. I thought about the Biggie situation, and it was just like just automatic, but. That wasn't the case because in that area where he was at, there was no death row, no bad boy involvement. Because if it was bad boy involvement, they would have protected him. And if it was death row, they would have tried to make a statement. Make a better statement than just a shootout.
Interesting.
Because they would have probably he deserved more than just a shootout. It would have been more than just a shootout.
I got you. If it had been death row getting retaliation against him.
Right. It was way more shootout. A shootout, that's a cakewalk.
Coming from the perspective, you're incarcerated. What do you think is, if Keefe D gets convicted for Tupac's murder, do you think he's going to have any issues in prison?
I don't think he's going to have any issues in prison because that situation is so far gone and died out. If anything, they just thought, okay, that's the dude that killed Tupac. Okay, bam, that'd be it. It wouldn't be nothing else to it.
Did you ever know Eric Daniel? He went by the name Scar.
That's my homie from Ludus Park.
Okay, and he was killed. People ask about him a lot. What can you tell me about him?
It's a mystery around his death because he was one of the ones that was liked, and still to this day, it's like a who did it. But that was on the streets. That was my road dog. I remember one time I was stuck in Spring Street in the Santana's, and they surrounded the apartment building trying to get me, and I called him. He's the one that came to save me. Sure did.
How'd that happen?
They seen my car. They seen I had a gray Cadillac, which was marked, and they knew who I was. So every time you come outside, and I was like, I'm not gonna come outside. I know y'all gonna shoot me. They said, no, come outside, we gonna fight you. I said, no, y'all not gonna fight me. Y'all got guns. I don't have no guns. So I called him, and he came with a gun, and he shot the apartments up, and I was able to escape to get up out of there. He was a real homie, and what happened to him, he didn't deserve that.
And his murder was never solved, right?
Never solved, no, never solved. In-house murders are the worst ones to solve because people are tight-knit, In-house murders are the worst ones to solve.
Right.
And they hit you hard because nobody want to say nothing because don't nobody going to involve nobody. Don't nobody going to get nobody arrested because it's the same people that did it, the same people that became hung around, the same people that he hung with and all that.
Did you ever know Suge back in those earlier days?
Mary and Night, I didn't, but I knew he was a football player before he got the right to death row. I didn't know him as Suge Knight, being from the mob. I knew him as a football player, a lineman, that almost made to the NFL but didn't.
And what did you think when, you kind of when it gets around, when death row starts to blow up, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking I'm thinking bad management, uh, due to the artist being exposed to street life.
I mean, that's kind of what
It
got
turned out to
Tupac
be
killed, was getting exposed to that life.
that part. It turned out to be a bad recipe for disaster. Here you got $1 million record label, $1 million artist. Why do you got him at the park? Why do you got him at a club? Why you got him at an MGM club doing things that street people do? And the thing about it, the street people don't even that they didn't even do. That frowned upon. Why? It didn't make no sense. Why would you do that? That's the silver lining right there. He turned the silver lining into red.
What do you think about the fact that Snoop owns Death Row now?
I think that's amazing. I think giving it a new name and revitalize it, I think it's perfect. I think that's the best thing that ever happened in Death Row. Snoop has always been a successful businessman. From his first CD, he was a successful man.
Right.
I mean, he's gonna be successful. hmm
What are your favorite stories from back then?
My favorite choice back then when we all got along, when everybody got along, and there was no bad boy Death Row beef. We was all cool. You can go where you want to go, and everything was cool. That was my fun memories.